We are the ones shooting up schools. We are the ones raping people.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with that statement. Far right, fascist, white, cis men. Here's the problem with that. Here's the problem with that. It is a belief that white cis men are inherently fascist. I don't think that's true. Oh no. On this video here, our society is oh god, that's a long title. Our society is purposely turning a blind eye to anti-Asianness in the black community. Oh boy. Okay, red pill and the woke mob. Okay. Something in Korean working as a server in the US. Now that's a video I'm interested in. Affirmative action harms Asian students. This is true. What are we doing to white people? I've seen a bit of this. I've seen the intro to this already. We are going to watch that. And the anti-Asianness within the... Wait a minute. No, I read that earlier. Oh, wait. Is it the same video? This must be the same video, right? No, it's not. These are clearly filmed. Is this like a follow-up? This is definitely a follow-up. Either way, what the F? A bit of a sussy channel. What is this person's... Law student, living in Philly, opinions, matters, importance, hope you, no hard feelings. Okay. Well, what I know certain people really like is when their their favorite minority comes out and defends them. And with 1.1 million views, this is certainly a 1 point. Yeah, I'm kind of interested. Let's see. It's crazy how what he's saying is viewed as bravery when it's common sense. America is so driven by race to a ridiculous extent. America's definitely race politics in America did not end. As someone who is largely disconnected from social media and all. Okay, I'm not reading all that. I grew up in the 90s, black and Hispanic school district as a white kid, and the racism experience was very sad and disheartening. I thought once I graduated it would be over, but sadly, that mentality has taken over the rest of the country. Oh boy, let's just get to the video. Let's hit it up. Let's like respond to this. I kind of, let's just get into it. Let's just get into it.
Let's talk about what we're doing.
Yes, let's.
There's been something going on for a
while. Holy shit, this is quiet.
More to the point, that we're asking white people
okay.
not only to ignore
my strong masculine voice is overpowering
against white people.
Okay.
There's been a
wait, I'm sorry, what was that? But to
rising tide of racial hatred against white people.
Oh my god. Okay, so let's already kind of establish here. A rising tide. Now, I am sure, I know that this video, this guy is going to show some examples of, of people being not very not racist against white people. Now, is that a tide? Now, this is the thing. Let us not confuse a tide with visible what's the word, with the normal, I should say. If we're using water, if we're going to use some oceanic references here, let us not mistake high tide or even like mid tide with fucking rising tide in the sense of like a tsunami or some nonsense, which I feel like we're already being a bit dishonest. But okay, it's always about how you measure things.
There's been a noticeable cultural shift in what constitutes acceptable speech as it relates to
this person definitely goes to law school.
In the early 2000s, the mainstream American culture preached about respecting each other's differences and not seeing color. Nowadays, we say that not seeing color is racism. Wait a minute.
Back in, as a proponent of the 90s, one moment, please. What was that? Bring that back. The video is right. It's like super quiet. Look, Homeboys is very quiet.
as it relates to white people. Back when I was a kid,
Am I gonna have to turn
in
this up
early
like all the
2000s,
way?
The mainstream American culture preached
Okay.
about respecting each other's differences and not seeing color. Nowadays,
Yeah, no. The 90s, excuse me, have you ever seen the movie Rush Hour? Like, what? Okay. I don't know if people know this, but like the 90s, not the 90s, early 2000s, we had quite a there was quite a lot of racialized comedy. I don't know if people really are aware of this, but there's like this movie called White Guys Can't Jump. Just kind of, I know it's like, crazy thought. No, this isn't new, guys. None of this is new. People being interpersonally racist is not new. And we have never, in my life, lived in a society that was not, at least in some way, concerned or interested in like racial politics.
we say that not seeing color is racism, that you must see color. But the more I see how things are unfolding, the more I'm convinced that this is wrong. Back then, saying something offhanded about white people were seen as not appropriate, just as it would be to say something offhanded about people of any other race.
What? Wait, what? Dude. I need, dude. There is a reason why Carlos Mencia and fucking Dave Chappelle were two of the largest comics in the late 90s and early 2000s, brother. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know where the fuck you were. How old is this dude? This dude could not have lived in the 90s. Zero chance.
But that soon gave way to our current times, in which there exists virtually no limit to what racial minorities can and do say about white people. I believe
there is definitely a limit. There is certain, like with almost everything, there is definitely a limit.
This is the natural outgrowth of a perverse ideology that teaches us that every societal ill is the fault of white people, and that whatever prejudice acts we may inflict upon them does not constitute discrimination because we don't have the power to discriminate. And alarmingly, this is
So this is the difference between, this is the misunderstanding between systemic racism and interpersonal racism. When we talk about interpersonal racism, it is literally as described. It's rather self-explanatory. Interpersonal racism is going to be people who hold bigoted or racial views against people for whatever reason. A lot of this comes down to experience. If we want to talk about like a really easy one and a pretty low hanging fruit here. Do you want to know what like the big like racial stereotype that probably most people have either engaged in or are familiar with, that this guy probably is aware of? It's Asian people in driving. It's stuff like that. This is what like interpersonal racism is. It's this, it's like offhanded comments. It's kind of it's overt racism. It's the really small, like micro interactions that we have every day. Systemic racism is the systems that are built that conveniently favor or disfavor certain racial groups or racial at least what would be believed as like racial stereotypes, I guess. So that's kind of the difference that we're talking about here, which get conflated often to kind of be rolled into this entire critique. There are people who are interpersonally racist and hold interpersonal biases that are based on race. 200%. Go and talk to anybody who lived during and are like around and were like in school maybe, or even like, out in the like working world, like around 9/11. There was a cultural what's the word I'm looking for? There was a cultural comfort with being like mildly racist against like Muslim people because of the experiences of 9/11. Now, this should tell you, hey, like this experience I had with this one person is not indicative of an entire group's character or an entire group's mindset. And that comes with like growth and an understanding of like large groups and having empathy and like kind of just being able to personalize with people, right? But because of we didn't do that, so there were systems in place. There were Muslims in America who were fucking targeted, whose mosques were like basically infiltrated by federal agents. People were radicalized and then arrested for being radicalized by the people who were trying to look for terrorists. Like at the end of the day, the systems that we built, the systems that we build are much more important than these like interpersonal like you said something that's like not nice. Yeah, it's not cool. If somebody's being racist, be like, hey, that's kind of racist. Don't be an asshole. But like, that's not the thing I think we need to spend our time with. And it's not the thing, like when you talk about a rising tide, you're just going to end up looking silly because like at the end of the day, low tide or high tide, it's just going to depend on the magnetism of the fucking moon. The water, there isn't more water all of a sudden during high tide. It's just higher up right now because of the relative pull of the moon, and I've now gone outside of what I'm knowledgeable enough in science for this metaphor. So we're gonna move on.
Particularly pronounced in the younger generation. But is it true? Do we not have the power to discriminate? Well, let's see.
Wait,
first,
what?
Let's take a look at.
I'm sorry.
Does not constitute discrimination because we don't have the power to discriminate.
Well, you can wait. Well, discrimination is rather like if we're talking broad systemic discrimination, that's a problem. Obviously, a lot of people can discriminate in small ways. Like you can discriminate in fucking elementary school by not giving one kid candy when you're supposed to give everyone candy. Like there's but what's actually meaningful is, again, it's all about how you measure these things.
And alarmingly, this is particularly pronounced in the younger generation. But is it true? Do we not have the power to discriminate? Well, let's see. First, let's take a look at the racial hatred at the interpersonal level. In today's society, it has become somewhat fashionable to think things and say things about and to white people that would not be acceptable if it was said about any other race.
Okay, so we're gonna do the don't make fun of white people thing. That's kind of what we're getting at, right? Like that's kind of what we're getting at. I mean,
being taught that the double standard is not wrong, that it is rather a form of empowerment. They'll attribute negative experiences that they've had with white people to their whiteness.
Not good.
You had an argument
fucking
in the
cringe.
Grocery store with a white person. They were acting entitled because they were white. A white driver.
They're acting entitled. So the answer to that is always they're acting entitled because they're entitled. Now their entitlement might be informed by some kind of their experience as maybe a white person, but I don't really think that that's like it's not something that you should reinforce in your own mind. I should say, like, I get the mindset, but it's not healthy. It's not good. Do not do that.
Or cut you off when you were driving. They need
My cat wants
your white
out.
Privilege. Your actions, your conduct, and your existence, in other words, boil down to your whiteness. And ashamedly, at one point in time, this was how I used to think as well. And beyond the people in my circle,
It is a
I
very
noticed that many people of
small-minded
color
way
have
of
this
thinking,
sort
and
of
I think
blasé
most
attitude.
people.
An attitude most particularly pronounced when there are no other white people around. Things are being said not just behind closed doors, but out in the open. Not
Things
just
being
between
said,
close friends,
not just between
but
close friends, but between
strangers.
complete
So
strangers.
here's the thing.
So
This
here's
is something
okay.
that I've
Here we go.
experienced countless
Sorry,
times.
he talks
So I
really
know that there are other people who are
like
experiencing it too.
lowly, so I can't hear.
I know it must
without
resonate with at
these.
least some of you.
Golly.
The difficulty here is that no matter how many anecdotes I share, they are just that, anecdotes.
Exactly.
People who refuse to believe that this is happening will just chalk it up to my experiences being a fluke. Or worse yet,
Exactly.
they'll say I'm lying. So I've compiled some TikTok.
I don't think he's lying, but also these are going to be anecdotes. But we'll
I want
watch
you
the
to take a
anecdotes.
look
I want to
at the
watch
things
the
that have been said
anecdotes.
about white people, especially by the younger generation. The kind of statements people wouldn't dare say about people of any other race. Take a look.
Also, let's all remember, let's all take a note right now. The group that probably commits this anti-whiteism, we'll go with, the group who commits a lot of this anti-whiteism is white people. The most the largest of these offenders are going to be white people virtue signaling and trying to be you know, the good ones, which is already reinforcing like a bad habit and a bad mindset. But yeah, so let's ay.
And what is stunningly in vogue in today's society, and ask yourselves, where does this lead to years down the line?
Let's see. Yeah, I would say that there are double standards for racial comedy. I'm fine with making fun of whites racially, but why can't you do the same to other ethnic categories? I mean, you can support or oppose it, but be consistent. So comedy. Okay, so let me isolate comedy for a minute. Comedy is a also. Why do I have to put it into audio only mode? That is a good question. I have no idea. So it really so okay. So let's isolate this for comedy for a minute. In comedy, you are the thing that makes good comedy is pointing out not just hypocrisy, but pointing out a what's the word I would say kind of undressing an authoritative figure or an authoritative maybe organization or even an authoritative source, one might say, right? The best comedy is revealing the hypocrisies of these groups, showing how their logic is flawed, and lampooning them for that, right? So the reason why people get really touchy about like racial comedy, especially when if you're a white guy doing jokes about black people, the reason why that becomes a little dicey is because historically white people who aren't comics, who aren't comedians, would perpetuate and reinforce negative stereotypes through comedy and kind of using that frame to make scathing critiques of other racial groups. There's a history behind it that is just, I think people are a little bit more uncomfortable with. And I think as I'll speak in the U.S. I think as black folks in America and everybody else kind of reaches parity with each other, which we're not there quite yet. I think you'll kind of see that, melt away a little bit. But at least still for now, there is a certain amount of damage that is done because of kind of the uneven relationship that white people have to institutions of power than black people do. That's kind of like the best. I get what you mean by consistency, but there is a little bit more context. I'm not like there are white people who do good good black comedy, I guess you could say, or comedy that's like lampooning the black community, but it always has to come from a place that's not punching down but that's punching up, or at least that's what I think makes good comedy. Like you can do what's the word, you can do you can perform bad racial comedy. Like if you've ever seen that like Steven Crowder clip of him talking about black people not being farmers and kind of doing a minstrel thing while talking about planting Hennessy trees, like this is an example of like, yeah, it's a like that is a joke, but like what's the joke reinforcing? The joke is reinforcing that black people aren't good like agricultural stewards. They just like drink Hennessy and use funny language. Like the joke isn't like something that's revealing a truth. You're just kind of punching down at people you see that are lower than you. That's kind of the difference there in that regard. But anyway, let's get on these TikToks. I can't wait to see what it says. Let's see. There's plenty of poor white people. Yeah, but I think racial stereotypes about white people, in my view, are also equally unhealthy. So they are equally unhealthy. They are not equally harmful. That's kind of the big difference. It's really just they are both not good. They're both not as harmful. That's the only real difference. Yeah, I think what racial stereotypes. Okay, right. There are oh, dude, there's a ton of white people who are poor. You ever been to the South? Also, I mean, if that's the case, Asian Americans also earn more than white Americans. So if you're talking about punching up, Asians also are roughly equal to whites, but you can't make fun of them generally. So I again, so as a racial minority, uh, again, that's one of those where it's really from a hierarchical standpoint, not from an economic standpoint. So there's also kind of that angle. Oh my god.
You have a token white and you're hanging out
Oh,
with
don't
your
say
friend
that.
group of color, you need to ask permission from everybody in the group to bring your white friend. Like, don't
No.
just bring them with them. I might not be in the mood to deal with white shenanigans that day. That's all I'm
Okay, so this is what I meant like earlier. What this is going to be a supercut of basically are younger folks. I'm assuming most of these people are in college or at least like going into college soon. What we're gonna see is an enormous supercut of people being interpersonally racist towards white people. Is this good? Fuck no, it's not. Is it cringe? Uber fucking cringe. Is it helpful? Certainly not to my movement as a leftist, as somebody who envisions an egalitarian society, a more fair society, a more equal society. No, this is not conducive to what I would want to see. Is this harmful? To a degree, absolutely. To a degree. Do I think this is harmful in the same way that what's the word I'm looking, that property taxes as a way of funding schools has disproportionately harmed the black community, and more specifically poorer communities, but the black community is kind of a little bit more in a more targeted way in terms of educational acumen and educational acquisition? Yes. Now that is real measurable harm. When we talk about real harm, we when I talk about real harm, at least I'm thinking of like, okay, like, is there rising hate crimes against Jewish people? Yes, that is material harm. Now the amount of people talking shit on on 4chan message boards, not good. Not good at all. But that's not equal, like them talking shit on their message boards is not equal to actual hate crimes being committed. The same way cringy liberals or whatever these people think they are being mildly revenge racist against white people isn't helpful, but it's not creating a system that is actively harming white people. So that's also kind of but this is cringe.
saying. And another thing, it feeds into their ego. Like, don't let them think they're a good white person.
Accomplices ask,
Ay.
how can they support Black and Indigenous people of color? And sometimes I really don't know what to say, but here's one easy way. Just don't have babies.
Can single-handedly
Okay, that was kind of funny. But no, not good. Not good. Don't no, stop it.
cause the white genocide that they are
What
so
the fuck?
afraid of.
Why is
With
TikTok so
2.25
quiet?
billion Asian women
I'm
and
assuming
half
you
a
guys can
billion
hear.
white men,
Like, I can hardly.
baby, it'll only take 2 generations. In 2 generations,
What?
there will no longer be any
Huh?
blonde-haired
These are some
Huh?
things I
Huh? Wait.
Billion-
Go back. Wait. What was that? What the fuck did I just hear?
cause the white genocide that they are so
Asian women can single-handedly cause the. Oh, it's a white flag. Okay, Gen O. Oh, because you can't write. Okay, that they are so. Okay.
With 2.25 billion Asian women and half
Uh-huh.
a billion white men,
Uh-huh.
baby, it'll only take 2 generations. In 2 generations,
weird.
there will no longer be any blonde-haired.
This
These are some
feels
things
weird.
I noticed
That felt weird. We're moving on.
about white American culture. Being grounded is a punishment to them. That's what they call punishment.
The advocacy for corporal punishment is not fucking. Oh, I hate this. I hate the like. Oh, you had it easy, whitey. Ugh, no.
The least grounded, least balanced.
Also, again, this is harmless. This is like people talking shit on TikTok. Some of it is kind of funny and some of it is just cringe, but like, what harm is being created with any of this?
Most destructive race considers being grounded a punishment? Yeah. They also say really violent phrases. Like they say things like, kill two birds with one stone. Why do we have to kill the birds?
What the fuck is the other phrase? Well, I guess I use that too, but I always thought of that as an American phrase. Then again, raised by white people, so, you know, maybe I'm just whitey at heart. Let's see. I mean, what specific privilege would white Americans have, Asian Americans do not have? Economically, I don't see it in the criminal justice. They're not particularly profiled, so I don't see any systemic bias against them that wouldn't apply to whites. Specific privilege white Americans have, Asian Americans do not have. Well, if you want to talk about privilege, we're talking like like political power. How many Asian legislators can you name? How many of them are there? There's not that many. So when we're talking about representation in like our government and the actual people who make decisions on how to like organize the system, along with people who have the hold like the capital funds to fund businesses, most of that's going to be white folks.
Why is everything so violent? It's almost like one's language and phrases reflects one's nature.
So that new
No, what? No, okay. No, there are tons of phrases everybody says that span across different languages that contextually mean different things than they did when they were first spoken or really. I don't. Okay, we're moving on.
Jeffrey Dahmer movie on Netflix is the perfect example
Why is TikTok
of
so
the
quiet? Or is it just this
sensationalization
dude's
of white
videos?
violence. People have a much easier time sympathizing with white criminals than they do with black victims. And people think
That is kind of true. In terms of black victimhood, there is a noticeable and trackable disinterest by people, as opposed to when we talk about white criminals. But that also plays into kind of the media that we've been fed. You know, if you're watching mafia movies from even the 50s and 60s, if you're watching Taxi Driver from I think the 70s, or what's that Bronson movie? Shit, I don't remember what the Bronson movie is, but it's the one where like I think his like wife and daughter get attacked and they're in like Chicago, and then he goes and becomes a vigilante or something. But it's like stuff like that. The criminal, like there's a long history in media of being really interested in character studies and criminals, like Bonnie and Clyde, that sort of stuff, which those have always been the case. Humans in general have always been interested in the villainous motives of characters in fiction, right? The reason why it comes down to our specific society having a comfort with that, with white villains, and a discomfort with black victims is mainly because during a lot of you know, if you look at the history of Hollywood during about like the 1950s through, I mean, honestly, pretty much to modern day, you see a real prevalence in white actors in what they would have termed just like standard mainstream sympathies in terms of like casting decisions. So, you know, again, it's there was a system built for people to sympathize and want to understand villains in media, villains in fiction. And it just so happened at the time that mostly white people are the only people getting cast in Hollywood. So, you know, it's a thing where it's not white people. It's just that's kind of how it worked out. And, you know, learning to kind of separate those is what I would call growth, not just being kind of racist about it.
these shows are harmless, but they actually contribute to a much bigger issue. It contributes to the viewpoint that white people are less violent than everyone else, and white violence is something to be consumed in media.
So in terms of 1350 is a, like, there's a reason why it's a meme. It's because it's an easy way to bring up one statistic without context and without explaining anything to justify the black people are just inherently violent. Most crime is interracial. Yes, most crime is and most crime is interracial. But do you also want to know like a contextual element to the whole 1350 meme? Where do most black people live? The inner city. Does the inner city have more or less people in it? It has more. Therefore, you're going to see more crime. As people live closer together, you are going to see more instances of crime. So if you, if you consolidate a lot of people into a smaller area, and, you know, they're the same race, like, you know, if we take maybe a Cabrini Green in Chicago, it was a housing development, very tall, very crime ridden. You pack a lot of people into that space, you're going to end up disproportionately having a lot of crime. Whereas if you move out kind of into the country, since you're only getting like one family for every, you know, however many miles, although you might still see that kind of, you might still see tension because everyone's not close together and because it's not like homogenous in this like really tight knit group and community, you're not going to see the same kind of you're not going to see the same kind of crime rates. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with population density, which black people generally live in much more dense populated areas. If you've never heard any pushback on that, that's like one contextual element to it.
What is with Caucasian people and like their
God
inability
damn, what is
to,
with
like,
y'all not
read
having
fucking
loud
lines?
volume?
Like, y'all act like you don't understand shit because y'all be the first ones during a conversation about the Holocaust to get so mad when black people be like, you do realize that the original Jewish people were
No. I hate this. I also hate this, like, I hate the, like, oh, like, you think this bad, I'm the real, look, no, shush, don't do that. Do not try to compare, like, your racial identities, unfortunate history with like another group's just because you want to piggyback or one up. No, stop it. Stop that. Don't do that.
Do not need to explain to anybody about us all bleeding red because, baby, you all are the people that need to learn that lesson. Clearly, history shows that you all are the people that like to pillage and eradicate, enslave, and oppress.
Yes, because none of those things happened until white people did them, which is unfortunate because now she's got me defending, having to say the thing where it's like none of all of these things. You can go and read a fucking history book. All of this stuff happened all over the world. This is why I stress a lot of times that what I want people to focus on, and what the same thing I would probably say to each one of these people would be, focus on systems. Michael Brooks, God rest his soul. I keep this phrase, this phrase of his in my head as often as I can, and it's be easy on people, hard on systems. Because at the end of the day, the way you drive large change and the way you change the lives of people without making, with the least amount of tension, there's always going to be tension. But I think the best way to go about it is always to challenge systems and challenge not just authority, but like the way in which these systems work. Not go after fucking white people. Like you just end up getting into arguments over like nonsense, like, oh, but like you guys did this, and we can all play that game. History is rather long. Focus on systems and ways to fix systems.
Attempt to suppress greatness because you all simply don't have it.
Right? Here go y'all cum goblins who don't even live in the fucking city. Which, by the way,
he was
people are
the other
last
host
ones
besides
to
Sam
ever
Cedar.
talk about somebody
He is sadly
stealing
dead.
anything.
God rest his soul.
Y'all wouldn't be in this country had it not been for y'all stealing it. So y'all are more focused on people looting and trying to get necessities and things that they need. And yes, a TV is a fucking necessity thing.
You feel like you're better than because people are out here stealing and you would never. First of all, if you are a Mayo monster, that is how your ancestors got everything, from stealing. People are,
and that's a behavior that's very common among white women. You
I hate this. I hate
have
this.
not intended that, but there are
This is not
many
only detrimental to
women
like any
who
kind
act
of movement
exactly
I would
like you.
want to be a
You
part
can
of.
find in your heart this
It's just like it's just the like I think there's a there's like a what's the word? There's a quote I saw from like I don't remember the dude's name. I know he's like famous or whatever, but it was like some quote about like the only way to challenge or whatever like discrimination is to reverse like it was very, very cringe. Like forgot, like very, very not good.
holiday season to donate to the Discriminated White Fund. You'd be helping millions.
Nothing says high protein like cicadas and cheese. Make sure you.
And nothing says caucasity like that right there.
What caucasity looks like. Roaming
I love
Asian
H-Mart.
grocery stores like it's an amusement park.
Explain to me why white people don't wear shoes outdoor, but wear shoes inside.
Oh shit, they're not wearing even sandals. Oh no. This is true. My dad does wear shoes indoors. I don't get it.
We are both white women. We are inherently a danger in spaces for Black, Indigenous, and other people of color simply by existing.
So, okay. So what that person is referring to is I don't even know if I ever want to entertain it. I really don't. I'm honestly just going to move on. I don't even feel like entertaining it.
White cis men who are a part of the far right-winged ideology of fascism. That is a true threat and the terrorism to this country.
I mean, those demographics are true. I don't know if it's inherently because they're white or really because that's the messaging that they've found, but okay.
POC stand in the street and scream at the top of their lungs,
Uh-huh.
I hate all white people. I want all white people to go die. Die, white devil, you cracker bitch.
Right.
That's still not racism.
You're not.
It's not systemic racism, but it is.
One of the good white people. Stop separating us from the bad white people. Don't sit out there in comments and say, we don't claim them. We are that. We are the ones shooting up schools. We are the ones raping people.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with that statement. Far right, fascist, white, cis men. Here's the problem with that. It is a belief that white cis men are inherently fascist. I don't think that's true. Almost anybody, any group can be fascist. There is nothing stopping almost any demographic group from engaging in fascism, given the right socioeconomic situation. No group, right? What we do have is an issue with white cis. I find it more it's boys than men who do find themselves convinced by far right fascists. But I do not believe that they are inherently far right or inherently fascist for that matter. It's simply these spaces that they've found themselves due to honestly their adjacency to white right-wing politics. This is kind of to give you a good example. I mentioned earlier I'm adopted, right? Do you know what I grew up listening to non-stop? And I do mean non-stop. I grew up listening to far right talk radio in the 90s, early 2000s until until I had my own car somewhere in the 2010s. Maybe in the late 2000s, right? I was saturated in the right-wing talk radio sphere for at least a decade, bare minimum, right? My adjacency to these things had I identified myself more as the son of a conservative, and specifically the white son of a conservative, those arguments might be more amenable to me because they're spoken by somebody who shares these cultural ties with me, or even a racial tie with me. But without any of that stuff, I would listen to all of it, synthesize it, and for the most part, disagree. It was only through my adjacency, like had I not been adopted, there's a good chance I would have been pulled more farther into the right than I did to the left. But that's really only, that's really because the politics of right-wing radio in the 90s and early 2000s was very racialized and was very steeped in this racial identity stuff from back then. So like, I don't like ascribing people to just like, oh, well, it's just inherently if you're white and cis and you're a guy, you're going to be like a fascist. There are quite a few who aren't fascists. It's not, it certainly isn't. There is a problem with them getting pulled that direction, but that's a problem for people like me and on the left to counter, not to just be like, fuck it, you're on your own, I guess.
People, the ones enslaving people.
And I'll say it, I hate being white.
Cringe.
Which means I'm one of the good ones.
He's not wrong.
All white people are inherently racist.
Yeah.
Can you be racist against white
Christ.
Based off of the definition of racism, yes, but it's not gonna hurt them and hurt them.
Yes. Okay, so this is mostly a correct answer. Yeah, because what is it? Wait, what did? Yeah.
Their opportunities like it does people of color.
Well, technically
Yeah.
you can. It's not like
Yes.
an issue.
You can oppress.
Well, it's not that it's not an issue. It's that there isn't a systemic force. What's the word? Multiplying that racist or bigoted worldview, or not worldview, but opinion.
The oppressor.
It helps you sleep at night. I'm racist to white people, and I'm proud of it. Why do people not understand that you can't be racist to white people? It's impossible. The system is not set up that way. You can insult white people,
You have a misunderstanding of what the system is.
but it is not racism. Me calling a white person a tub of mayonnaise and a flower-looking ass, that's not racist.
That's also not racist. That's funny. That's like funny.
All the way to Africa to.
Because do you want to know what the equivalent is? That if you're gonna call somebody, if you're gonna like go up to your local white man and do like a "what up, my mayo man," and you're like black, and you blink when he calls you a locked character, then I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Because I'll tell you right now, that one always hits hard. That one always hits good. That's always a good joke.
Take black people from their homes, shove them in on boats where a lot of them got diseases and died. Tell them where they could sit
Y'all
on a
need
bus.
to clean y'all
Tell them which
bathrooms.
schools they could go
That's what
to,
y'all
which
need to
water
do.
fountains they could use, which baths.
Clean your mirror. What the fuck is wrong with you? You over here talking to your phone. You need to be talking to some fucking Windex.
They could use, and that's sugarcoating it. Those are just terms. I'm not even
black
describing
and
all the
Hispanic
disgusting
people,
things
they're
that
not
happen.
fascists, are pretty
And
socially
they don't
conservative
even want
as a whole, and
revenge.
Christian.
They are letting you guys skate by.
Yes, and yeah, like, and how many? So, and ask yourself why the Republican Party have no interest in courting Hispanics or like blacks in general, really much at all. Because absolutely, like black people and Hispanics and black people have the same ability to be conservative as everybody else. But for whatever reason, the Republican Party doesn't have as much of an interest in terms of addressing their problems. They want to talk about CRT, but have no interest in fixing, school funding in inner cities, as an example.
By asking for equal rights, that's it? And you're still saying no? They are not as angry as they should be. Y'all are getting off easy, and you're still saying no?
Cringe.
Fuck you.
Cringe.
Some people look at that and chalk it up to
Okay, cool, we're done. Okay, we're done with the fuck Christ.
the grumblings of the powerless. That's
It
the
is.
idea that when you have a power disparity, the less powerful sort of has this general society given leeway to complain about the more powerful.
Yeah.
The villagers complaining about their king doesn't have the same ring as the king making snide and crude comments about the villagers.
Yes, that is correct. It is not great. In this case, it's not like great because it's not nice to be racist. But if we're talking feudal kings, that's very different. You can always make fun of feudal kings and talk shit, and because it's feudalism and morally repugnant. But yeah, it doesn't hold the same weight. Getting made fun of on TikTok is not the same as getting your like neighborhood community center torn down, and now your kids have nothing to do with their time, and
But that's not what's going on here. Because although certain segments of our society refuse to believe this, even as evidence mount before our very eyes, in one side of the political aisle, people of color actually have greater power than white people. That is.
Wait a minute. I said it earlier and I'll say it again. It's all about how you measure things. Power can mean a lot of things. Do any of these TikTokers have power?
That's the truth that is not being acknowledged by the people that.
Ooh, always a good time to plug. I stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time.
I need to hear it.
Unless I get scheduled for a shift or something comes up. But otherwise, those 3 days.
Because this gets in the way of them wielding that power in the way they want. Malignantly. I've heard from somewhere that politics is downstream of culture, and I think that is certainly correct.
I would
we have a
say
mainstream
so, yeah.
culture that tells us it's okay to hold prejudice and hateful view of white people, and our politics.
I work in a kitchen. I'm a cook.
Is then infused
That's why I'm
with this
interested in.
energy,
He
and
has
we
a
see
cook
active,
video
overt,
or like a
and
server.
on the books racial discrimination of. It's okay to hold prejudice and hateful view of white people, and our politics is then infused with this energy, and we see active, overt.
Active. Overt? Maybe a little. On the books? No.
And on the books racial discrimination of white people that those who are perpetuating this hatred is refusing to see as discrimination. They'll say, no, this is remediation. These are the same people who are making tenuous arguments that some of our race-neutral...
Also, by the way, anybody making this argument is not left-wing. Anybody who does the I hate white people as a way to remediate my issues, you're not left-wing. That is fundamentally, at least in my perspective, a more right-wing perspective. That's just mine.
Laws discriminate against people of color. And this is certainly evidence that in one side of the political aisle, people of color have more power than white people. Because if we didn't have the
literally Hispanic cook, I don't know what to tell you, man. I just like cooking.
Power, we wouldn't be able to put into place practices and policies that does this. That's what power is. Things like Minneapolis local government agreeing to a contract with the teachers union.
Now, Fury has Minneapolis teachers as unions, negotiates clause requiring white educators be laid off first, regardless of seniority. Tranche at the end of 2-week strike this past March. I'm not going to double check this. Is this cringe? Let's see. No, I don't care. Union negotiates clause requiring white educators, regardless of seniority, to make up for past discriminations. So there is an argument to be made that white teachers maybe weren't fired immediately in the same way. I would have to know the specifics, but sometimes we're not going to get the specifics on this one.
Union that says white
you know what? I'll do my due employment practice by promising to protect teachers who are part of, quote, underrepresented populations if the district lays off teachers. Minneapolis teacher force is predominantly white. Only 20% are people of color. The purpose of the provision is to retain those teachers who may have fewer years on the job, while the union calls it historic. Conservative groups and media outlets have a different perspective. They've been blasting the provision, calling it a racist measure that discriminates against white teachers. Okay. Provision construct upended decades of last in... Right, okay. Minneapolis school district is facing backlash. This is in some ways a shift for conservative organizations, which often object to saying, okay. Can I just get a news article? AP News, here we go. Let's see. Settled a 14-day strike. Months later, okay, let's see. Celebrated groundbreaking provision in the new contract that was meant to shield teachers of color from seniority-based layoffs and help ensure the students. Okay. Formation minorities of teachers who look like them. That makes sense to me. Months later, conservative media outlets erupted. One large group is looking to recruit. Yeah. Same people who want to take down teachers' unions and blame seniority are now defending it for what? Yeah. Recent coverage of conservative. Okay, so contract language doesn't specifically say that white teachers will be laid off ahead of teachers of color, though critics say that's what the effect would be. The contract exempts teachers who are members of populations underrepresented among licensed teachers in districts. Okay, so that mostly makes sense, as well as alumni historically black Hispanic colleges, tribal colleges, around 60% of districts. Teachers are white. Wow, more than 60%. Okay, so it's literally just a advocates of the student racial minority perform better when they're educators. This is true. Union fought for years. Minneapolis is one of the many districts struggling to declining teacher. Yep. Two affirmative action cases. Yeah, affirmative action's kind of cringe. Has been reviewed by U.S. Supreme Court. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it seems rather innocuous, honestly. I don't really think this is like a let's see, what contract exempts. Oh, okay. Yeah, because basically this is like, hey, we don't have that many black teachers. We'd like to, if we can, hold on to them as much as possible. There are going to be people who will try to turn this into like they'll let like any black teacher stay even if they like rape somebody's kid or something just because no, it's just that if they're going to make layoffs, they want to keep as many basically non-white teachers as they can, since it's only, you know, the rest of the community, it's like what, 40% of the teachers are non-white. So it's just trying to make sure that number doesn't completely plummet to the ground. But in no way is this like people are getting laid off anyway. In no way. Like that shouldn't, I'm not in favor of layoffs, but like, you know, it's just kind of putting one barrier up to keep certain people in the job who would probably leave or get laid off. Notice it says underrepresented groups, which technically, you know, 100, maybe not 100, 50 years in the future, that could just be white people, just to keep, you know, at the end of the day, if you're using underrepresented groups specifically as a term, I think that's a little bit more safe in terms of not, of like, you know, the pendulum being able to swing in like an even fashion.
First, New York City's government enacting a policy of having white seniors go to the back of the line on lax.
What is this? New York's race-based. Okay, so I actually remember this one. The reason behind this. So New York's race-based preferential COVID treatments. So essentially, New York said that they were prioritizing having black people. I think it was very specifically African Americans. Kind of get treatment a little bit, kind of be pushed to the front of the line in terms of treatment. The reason for that was because studies shows that the outcomes of contracting COVID were more severe in those communities. So this wasn't something where it was, oh, we're just putting black people in front for no reason. This is the community that's going to be affected the most. The same way, like, you know, old people as a demographic were put in front of younger folks when it came to COVID because they were affected more. Black people, it was the same in New York. Because of the high population, COVID was easily spread in those communities. So dealing with those communities and like treating them as like a little bit quicker is kind of the thing you want to do if you want to save more lives.
Saving COVID treatment. A college professor that says white people should be killed and facing no repercussions.
Let's see. Rutgers University fails to condemn 10-year professor who said, we've got to take these motherfuckers out about white people. I'd like to know what Rutgers, okay. I'm not looking into this. First of all, it's a professor, which means it could have been part of a seminar, which means this is wildly out of context. Cornell's BIPOC only rock climbing course open to white students after racism claims.
Banning white people from rock climbing lessons. one of many instances of liberal.
What is this? Tufts University event series separates white faculty from BIPOC colleagues. One of the Massachusetts University events creates a safe space for people categorized as BIPOC from white participants. Okay. Off-campus UC Berkeley student housing bans white people from common areas. Oh, I remember this. Yeah, I think I remember this Berkeley story. It was literally like a room where, like, yeah, it was cringe. It was cringe. Tired of cis men, of white cis men. Come paint and write about it. Okay, cool. Oh, it's a Juneteenth thing. Fun.
Colleges doing the utmost to exclude and ostracize white students. BIPOC,
the center of South America, Paraguay. Actually, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
No white,
it's just Paraguay.
But they don't have the guts to say that, even though that is what that is. That's what makes us different than the mere grumblings of the common villager. The villagers have surrounded the palace, demanding Marie Antoinette's head. The power dynamics have shifted. That is a fact.
Has it? Have the power dynamics shifted? Are black people taking to the street and taking back the suburbs? Or is that language that's used by politicians to give you the perception of danger? Like, this is...
Progressive media outlets do not cover these stories. Some people out there have no idea that this is going on. But worse, some others out there know...
Wait. Some people... Wait.
Dynamics have shifted. That is a fact. Progressive media outlets do not cover these.
Oh, progressive media outlets. Okay. Actually, progressive media outlets, I was already familiar with a couple of those. And some of them they're not really stories. Like, again, these are very small and interpersonal instances of racism. These still aren't systems, which is the problem.
Stories. Some people out there have no idea that this is going on. But worse, some others out there know but agree with what's going on. And for those people...
And what's going on? People making TikToks, making mayonnaise jokes. I mean, again, it's kind of mean, but is it Jim Crow? Is it redlining? Is it controlled obsolescence? Like, you know, let's...
To convince themselves that this is not racial discrimination, they play mind tricks and word games. They use phrases and talking points like punching up. You can't be racist to white people. You can't oppress the oppressor, meaning I'm acting oppressively, but I've designated you as the oppressor, so everything goes.
Also, the system is oppressive. That's also a misunderstanding by a lot of people, including this person. The system is what oppresses you. Just whoever the avatar of that system is just going to be based on history mostly.
Or Ibram X. Kendi's infamous words. The only way to remedy past discrimination is current discrimination.
Mayonnaise. Oh, this guy. Wait, I think this is the quote I was thinking.
Infamous words. The only...
Wait, is this the person I always hear conservatives talk about? I finally have a face to go with a name. I've never seen what this person looks like. I like this. I like this shirt. This shirt and jacket. I dig it. I don't know about the glasses. I'm sick and tired of these glasses. We need a new in-style pair of frames. The only way to remedy past discrimination is current discrimination. Cringe. No, that's stupid. That's fucking dumb.
The only way to remedy past discrimination is current discrimination. Or when people say things like, what we're doing to white people is not racism because racism...
The US-based advocacy group, the Anti-Defamation League, has drawn criticism on social media after screenshots of their definition of racism went viral on Twitter. According to the ADL, racism can be defined as the marginalization and or oppression of people of color based on socially constructed racial hierarchy that privileges white people. White privilege... Wait. Wait a minute. Okay, that's a... Wait. Racial prejudice plus power equals racism. Yeah, I would just bold-facedly disagree with this. This would describe systemic racism. That's what this would describe. Systemic racism. Yeah, white privilege is a term you may have heard before, and it can be confusing. Think of it this way. Imagine a white person raced the... Oh, we're doing the racing analogy. I love the racing analogy. The white person would be able to run at a normal speed with the black person, 100 pounds. Chances are the white person, da-da-da-da-da. Obstacles overcome. Yes, this is broadly... this is what you would mostly describe as white privilege, is starting from a position that, like... from a social position that is without as many barriers. It doesn't mean everybody. It's just a generalization.
Racism is prejudice plus power, and we don't have the power. They use all this mind-bending apparatus to delude themselves.
Well, not to be mean or anything, but I think overall the ADL is... we talked earlier. You have what I gathered as mildly right-wing views, which is fine. You have a right to hold whatever views you want. But I don't think the ADL is an organization that's going to be as sympathetic to the politics that you're looking for. Although the ADL, I think, does good work in some aspects. I don't have a full track record of the ADL, but I mean, at least with that definition of racism, that's cringe. Their definition of white privilege is, I think, mostly accurate for the most part. But it's important to, again, I said it earlier, focus on systems. I don't personally like the personal racism stuff. Like, it's not cool, but like, there's nothing I or you can do to like change anybody who just fucks around on TikTok and says dumb shit's mine, because they're not, they have no incentive to bother with that.
Into believing what they're doing faces
unless they want to come on this show and
but in the back of their minds,
talk with me about
perhaps in their subconscious minds,
then maybe
it's racial revenge.
Maybe I should reach out.
We experienced it, you experienced it too. See how you like it. That people of color are using our newfound power to act this way and then pretend like none of this is going on leads me to believe that we would have done the same thing that white people did were we to be in their historical position. Because such acts have its roots in human nature, not white people nature. And one...
Oh, okay, so I don't like this. I don't like this at all. Because, okay, so I think also a big piece to this person's narrative has been essentially trying to, I think, naturalize a lot of racial division. In the sense that, like, nowhere in this video have we really seen, like, as somebody who's a leftist, right? Nowhere in this video have I seen any evidence or any argument that is even like mildly based on statistics or based on what's the word, any kind of like measurable stat, I guess. I know I said statistics earlier, but like, and these are the things that like I'm usually looking for, is some kind of like, show me a cause, show me effect, show me this, and then show me the outcome. What a lot of this is doing is, at least in my opinion, speculating and kind of just signal boosting the most extreme and most very obvious examples of interpersonal racism, and kind of just tying that into this general like race war-y rhetoric of like, like, oh, like maybe they would have done the same thing that like we would have done, which is actually like, this person I don't think realizes that they're either already bought in or buying in currently. Like, I will just say, they had to edit this video. They're also bought in to the exact same kind of mindset that the people in that video, the people in that in all of those TikToks were. They're both bought into the same kind of mindset, because there was there was a person who did kind of like the, if we were, you guys are lucky we don't want to do the same thing you guys did to us if we were in power, da 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 da. That's not what that person was saying. That person was being dishonest. What they were communicating was, I would like to be able to do those things, but I'm not allowed to really say that, because that's not good, right? The same way this guy isn't allowed to say that, and his group or whatever group that he thinks would be in power, white people will say, or whatever, it doesn't matter, would also perform the same kind of racial animus and kind of racial negative actions towards other groups if they were in power. He's bought into the same thing he's criticizing, which I don't know if he doesn't notice that, but like not once has he offered like some kind of like systemic critique, any kind of real tangible material harm. It's all been kind of this alarmism around what if the BIPOC army suddenly digivolves and fucking comes after, you know, it comes after our group. The video is called "What Are We Doing to White People?" What this video is communicating is a justification for somebody who already thinks that there is an argument to be made that white people are the real oppressed group. This is just reinforcing that argument and speaking that audience and giving them, like, you know, a non-white voice to communicate this stuff. Like that's all this kind of is. You know, there's only, god damn, there's still like 5 minutes left. I guess we'll finish it. But like, not once has this person brought anything to the table that isn't like, just like, I saw a TikTok, I saw another TikTok, I saw another TikTok, oh my god, like, oh my god, the blacks are coming for us, the BIPOC is coming for us. And like, this is the same kind of distrustful, bigoted mindset that just leads to you reinforcing systemic, systems of racism to protect yourself. Like to me, this person's not making the argument I think they're making. I don't think they realize that they're bought in to the exact same ideology that they're critiquing. Like I think all of that is cringe, because it is. And I also think this is cringe. This whole like, oh, when we come for you, or, you know, we need to watch out because when they come for us, they're gonna do what we did to them. Like, no. Like, the people who think like that should not. And the people who think that they're they're at the top and they're being challenged should also not look at it from a racially divided in a racially divided lens. You know, as one of my favorite movies puts, it's all about class. And that's really the thing that divides most of us.
I can only imagine what might happen in the coming decades.
Exactly.
When the demographics of the U.S. will have shifted such that white people will no longer constitute the majority. When the younger generation you've just seen have graduated from elite schools and hold positions of power in our institutions, our government, corporations, entertainment, news media, and so forth.
This is just white genocide alarmism. That's all this is. That's what we were driving towards.
How they might, in wielding the levers of society, be able to rationalize using their adult brain the hatred that was embedded in their minds during their adolescence.
I don't like BIPOC
what we're
as a term.
seeing
It's
just the beginning.
Used a lot and it's ubiquitous.
To
I'm
the
not
white
really a
people
fan
who are
of it.
watching,
It's
I
very
just want to
awkward.
say, you are not an oppressor for refusing to accept an ideology that teaches people to hate you, that teaches you that you are
Man after my own heart.
Inherently bad, that your children are inherently bad, that you're inherently racist no matter what you do or how you think, that you need to repent by taking affirmative steps in your life to redress harms that your ancestors may have done, or the racist actions of other white people. In fact, you are not an oppressor, period.
Okay, let me see. White genocide, what the Yeah, I wish it was made up. Okay, let me see if I can do a little bit better. White folks out there, my people from Pennsylvania, my people from Virginia, my people from New York, my people from Boston, to any of you white folks might be watching, maybe not, let me say, you personally are not an oppressor. You live in America. You live in a country that's been ruled by people who share your same skin color and have built and forwarded a system that is driven to benefit people who look like them. Now, that so happens to be you. Is that your fault? Not at all. What I, as a leftist, as a progressive, as I would say a nominal socialist, ask of you is to simply be aware of the systems that you live in. And if you find that those systems seem unfair to you, if you look at other people in this country, people of other races, people of other ethnic groups, if you look at those and you think to yourself, this doesn't seem fair, I do not want you to look inward. I do not want you to look at yourself in the mirror and think, what did I cause? What I want you to do is to think a little bit harder next time you vote and next time you engage in politics, and try to find and try to analyze the systems that we live in. We live in a system that puts, and I said it earlier, white, rich people first. At the end of the day, that's kind of who the system was built for. It was who the system was also built by. What I want is to see a destruction of that system. Not because I don't like white people, mainly because I just don't really like the ultra wealthy. Because to me, it's all about class. There are many poor whites out there, many working class white folks out there. I want you to come together with your black coworkers, with your Hispanic coworkers, with your Asian coworkers. I want you all to come together, put all the nonsense about oppressor and everything else aside. I want you to come together and I want you to fight for better working conditions. I want you to fight for more broader rights for each other. That's what I want. That is the future I want. I do not want in like 10 years to be sitting here and still having this conversation about white genocide and white oppression and all the rest of this nonsense. The two things you should be concerned with is class and the systems you live in. You change those, you change a lot more than just putting some BLM flag outside your window or some pride flag outside of your window to virtue signal to other people that you're one of the good ones. Be the good one by creating positive outcomes. That's voting for being more mindful of your vote, and that's understanding class and the systems you live in. That's all. Now, granted, that's a tall order, and there are going to be people like this guy. There are going to be people like this guy who are going to give you an easier answer, which is you've done nothing wrong. There's nothing that you don't have to do anything. You just have to keep on being you. And, I get it. I'm asking more, quite frankly. I'm asking you to be more aware of everything going on around you. This guy's asking you to not do that. But I think you and I both know. Intuition can be a crafty thing. I know it feels good to just go with your gut and to not think about it too much, but you wouldn't accept that in any other scenario, would you? You would think like, maybe I should think about this a little bit more. So, moving along, let's finish this up.
You did not choose to be born white, just like any of us did not choose to be born in our race.
Absolutely.
And to ask of you, at the individual level, for example, to give your life in service of people of color,
nobody's
to use as physical barriers at protests, to give away your house to black people instead.
I feel like people say that, don't actually mean that.
Your children, all actual things
that's
have been
not a thing.
publicly demanded of white people. To ask this of
Publicly
you
demanded on
is
what?
morally reprehensible collective punishment. You are not under any obligation to carry yourself in any sort of way that others demand of you just because of the color of your skin. You need to do this and you need to do that because...
Now, notice, all of the things I mentioned, you can do while being literally any race. That's what I think everybody should do. My advice to everybody are those things. It's not just about white people. White people, it's good. As like a white person, I think you should do that. But like, if you're Hispanic, if you're black, if you're any of these, if you're any ethnicity, any race, You should be more amenable to these things. Should be educated. And I get it. It's hard. We all have jobs. I have a job.
From privilege thing
Yeah,
is
it's hard. It's hard to
it's
have
just
this
a way
much
for
time to
people
spend doing
harboring
it,
racial
but
animus
just be mindful.
to attack
Be
you,
open.
to say that the accomplishments you've achieved in your life isn't yours, and to
It
silence.
says aren't yours in your subs.
It is not you. It is this ideology that is wrong and perverse. It is one cloaked in a shroud of pseudo-justice and self-righteousness, all the while excreting toxic fumes of racial hatred.
And what do you think this is? Let's be honest. What is anything that this dude said besides excreting toxic fumes of racial hatred? Because it's just, what if they come for you? I know, you know?
It blames all white people for the actions of their ancestors, something you have no control over, while absolving black people of personal responsibility for their own individual actions by holding that if black people commit acts of harm, for example, towards another community, that's the fault of white supremacy. White people are controlling them like puppets on a string. It's a backwards.
I don't think anybody thinks that white people are
want to fight it as a matter of principle.
controlling black people like puppets on strings.
If you refuse to accept their premise in your head, but are too afraid to voice your opinion, you're neither a coward nor a bad person. If you're of a liberal bent, but there's a small
This
corner in
person's
your
a
brain
small
telling you as you're
YouTuber. Do you
watching this
think if
video
I
that
like
perhaps some of
emailed
this
them
is
that they
wrong?
would agree to come on the show?
Listen to your
I would
intuition.
love to talk to this person.
Maybe you think, oh, I agree with most of what the progressive left teaches about racial justice, but just not with some of this disagreeable stuff, only at the extremes. I'm here to tell you that the rot starts at the core.
Wait, but that's not how a spectrum works. That's not how a spectrum works.
This racial hatred of white people is a natural outgrowth, part and parcel of an ideology that attempts to indoctrinate us into believing that there is current systemic oppression going on.
Ah! There it is. The only time he has ever mentioned systemic oppression or systemic racism. Now we're getting to the system. Do you notice the entire video doesn't mention a word of systems? The entire video. We went this entire thing without one mutter of systems. But he's used cleverly, not really that cleverly, but like he's used this entire video of presenting interpersonal racism to undermine and undermine and you know, attempt to disregard systemic racism, the actual like really harmful part of this. Interpersonal racism sucks. Systemic racism is systemically damaging. It's damaging to everybody, no matter what. Everybody participates in it. It's all not good. But yeah, interesting. Now we want to talk about systems with only
all racial disparities we see today
2
is the sole
minutes
result of
left.
oppression by white people. When there are other more plausible explanations to be had that these same people are silencing as impermissible hate speech. They're telling you, shut up. You'll take it.
Yeah, you
You'll
will
like
take it. You will like it.
But contrary to what they're saying, you don't have to take that.
Uh-huh.
You can believe that the things that have been done in the past were morally wrong, as well you should, all the while believing that what is currently going on is also wrong, that we're going backwards, that this
Imagine thinking like Jim Crow, slavery, and like, you know, like, and the failure of Reconstruction. Well, I guess that's through Jim Crow. But imagine like Jim Crow and slavery, that you're like trying to draw equivalence between those two things, and people on TikTok being mean, which they are. They're being assholes. But are these, again, it's all about how you measure things.
This is history rhyming with itself. The table is turning in an eye for an eye manner. As the great Mahatma Gandhi once said, an eye for an eye will leave the whole world blind.
True.
But those driven by hatred would
What's
sooner
the,
gouge everyone's
that's
eyes
awfully
out.
hot
They realized
coffee
that
pot.
true victory for people of color would have been having history record that when the power dynamics shifted, we treated white people with a kindness that their forefathers may not have shown our forefathers. But now, it will say when we gain the power, we turn around and...
Yes, this person's prescription is if we let the darkies get in power, that they will oppress you, technically, is what this guy's saying.
Started doing some of the same stuff to white people.
Mm.
Segregation, social ostracization.
There
hatred,
are
sanctioned by government and law. And we're doing all
black
of this while
political groups
pretending
that
like we're
are
doing something
pro-segregation. It's very cringe.
We've missed our bus. But that doesn't mean that there can't
I see
be
what you did there. You mentioned buses
So,
because of black people
to some
and the
people
civil rights
watching
movement.
who are engaging in this sort of hatred,
Uh-huh.
whether or not you're acutely aware, the same people that act like white people as a collective are not people,
Is that me?
but
No,
rather
it's not
some
me.
pernicious alien force that has come to invade the earth.
No.
With this video, I implore you.
First of all,
to ask
aliens
yourself,
are fucking gray, first of all, and they come out of saucers.
what are we doing?
White
to
people come out of Europe and kind of anywhere
some
that
people
we can
love to
define
say.
as white,
Do better.
since white isn't really a thing.
Happy New Year.
Oh my god. Oh, no. Stop it. You know the thing that they tell, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to like click on one of these like things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to